Hello, this is episode three, the final episode of this particular series. I'll be providing a recap of this of the first two episodes for folks who have missed it, and I think I'll also need to reintroduce myself. My name is Vivek Chandran. I am the author of the book titled "The 9 p.m. Debate." This book is a work of fiction, and it dives deep into the rape epidemic in India. It looks at both problems as well as potential solutions. So let's dive in. A quick recap of the earlier two episodes. So we looked first at the judicial system. We looked at a few cases. Navjot Singh Sidhu, it took 30 years to convict him. You have the Union Carbide, which is the Bhopal gas tragedy. It took 26 years to get a conviction. There were seven people convicted, 2 years in jail. All of them got bail. So literally, nobody went to prison or nobody was punished for that particular crime, right? And then you've got the Sheena Bora case, which went on for 6 years, still ongoing, and no end in sight. So that's the judicial system. Now let's look at prisons, right? We discussed Bilkis Bano, and it's not just about the accused or the punished being let go on the exact same day, but it's more about we discussed the parole aspect where all of them got parole, amounting to about 71 days a year, and there's an additional furlough which the jail provides, which is another 10 days. So is that really a punishment? And then you had other people like the fraudster Chandrasekhar, and then you have Lawrence Bishnoi, and these people are conducting their activities in jails. So it's more like an office versus a punishment for some of these people. And then we looked at the third pillar, which is the police. We discussed the Vedant Agarwal case. So Vedant Agarwal is a Pune hit and run, and if it hadn't been for the media, this case would not really have gone anywhere. Right, so he's arrested, two people killed. This case is in court. It's pretty open and shut, but there are other aspects related to the cops being negligent, not just negligent, but actually helping the accused, right? So there's no doubt that all three pillars of the law and order system today are broken, and the average person in India has no faith that the system is going to work for him or her, right? Now the question to ask is, did we cover all issues, right? And the answer is no, we didn't, right? If it's one thing to blame systems, but what about all of us, right? All of us live in society, and we're also complicit in our own ways. How are we complicit? Let's take a look at two social, cultural um, lapses. It's a very mild way of putting it, but it's more like evils. So the first one is female infanticide, right? When you have a girl child, people don't want it, and female infanticide was something that was very, very prevalent in India. It still is to a degree, but now we have laws where gender cannot be disclosed for an unborn baby, which is good, but that is a big is a really big issue, because it talks about how girl kids have been second class citizens in this country for a very, very long time, right? And the second one I can think of is the caste system, right? There are a lot of these crimes are related to power, and the upper caste and the lower caste, and that power equation is something that comes through in violence against women, and that is still existent in society today. And it will take some work for us to overcome some of those evils, and become better collectively as a society, right? So that said, and a lot of those are related to education. You could even toss in dowry there as well as another important social evil. Right. So, but let's start with the systemic issues, and let's see how we can start finding solutions for some of this, right? So let's start with the judiciary, right? So the judiciary, we've seen when a case goes on court. In court for 30 years, that is a very, 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 very long time, and that's not uncommon. It could even be 10 years. That's still a long time. 6 years, that's still a long time. If you look at international statistics, the book that I've written mentions those. The numbers in most of the countries are really, really low. Most of the adjudications happen within 2 to 3 years, and unlike India, so there is a need for us to really dramatically overhaul the judicial system. But how do you make it accountable in the short term, right? So when you look at a case like this, like 30 years, a Union Carbide 26 years, who is the highest judicial authority in India? Is it the Chief Justice? Okay, so in that case, we should immediately take the Chief Justice and put him in prison, him or her, right? Because if they are responsible for the system and the system is not efficient, then what did they do to fix it, right? Did the Chief Justice take a look at this case and say, oh, these were the judges who are involved in those cases, and we believe that they have been doing a thoroughly shabby job, and we've taken this, and this action against them? No. Well, then guess what? If you haven't taken action against them, let's take action against you, and let's set that in motion, right? So I think if you want judicial accountability, you will need to start at the top, and you will need to make sure that judges who are involved in cases like this, which take a long time, these judges go to prison. It's not that they are removed and dismissed from their job. They have to go to prison because they have a responsibility that they've abdicated, right? They had a job that they did not do, but they were actually paid to do that job, right? So that is for starters. The other thing to talk about is, if you look at courts today, there are other issues as well, plaguing the judicial system, right? One of them is related to infrastructure. If you looked at the courts in our country, go to any village or small town, take a look at the court. It's a very shabby establishment. It doesn't exude any power. You don't really feel that if you go in there, you're going to get justice, right? So just from a look and feel infrastructure standpoint, old, dilapidated. You still have people sitting outside with umbrellas and typewriters. So it's a totally different world which needs to be completely overhauled, right? And there's another aspect related to, do we really have enough judges, right? There's a strong paucity of judges in India, and it's a big number. It's over 25%. So we need to make sure that we can have more judges, and we get rid of things like summer vacations for judges. Given the backlog, we can't really have things like that. But there are certain things that we've inherited from the colonial past, and those are things that we need to remedy and make sure that the legal system is overhauled. This includes laws being simplified, right? So the judiciary, that including the infrastructure, including people, all of that needs to be completely overhauled. Now let's just go to the next one, which is the police, right? So we've noticed cases, we've discussed cases related to Vedant Agarwal, where the police was complicit. They didn't really go in and take the blood test on time, right? They actually went and made sure that the accused was well fed, and that would have affected the alcohol number in his blood. So what exactly the police did was they tampered with the evidence, and for that they should be sent to prison. That didn't happen, right? We haven't accused the Pune police of tampering with evidence, and that is what the accusation needs to be, very simply. We've got this other case in Calcutta, the Archie Kerr, and in this case, the case was handed to the CBI. So why was the case handed to the CBI? Are the police incompetent? And if the police are incompetent for such a high-profile case, then what is the confidence that you have that the police will do a good job for a low-profile case, right? For a case that is not in the media, will they? No. So in this particular case, you apply the same standards and say, okay, if the police is incompetent or the police is compromised, then let's take action against the police, right? So there's the other case that we have that was related to Sakshi Malik, where she went to a police station to file an FIR, and the FIR was not taken. Same thing, fire the policeman who did not take her FIR. Just do that, and make sure that the top official in that city, top police official, is given a first warning, right? Maybe once he gets 3 warnings, even he goes to prison and he loses all his benefits. No retirement, no pension, nothing, right? So we need to make sure that the police are accountable, and the only way to make sure that the police are accountable is by actually putting them in prison for not doing their job. Anything short of that is not going to work. right? The moment you do something like this, in if there's a rich builder who comes and says, oh, it's my son, let him go, and I'll give you X money. It's not going to work, because now you've got them under the scanner. You're seeing where the money, you've got the bank accounts under the scanner. You're making sure that they are not going to get anything, right? They lose their job, and their entire life is under a microscope, and they will not be able to get funds and do things like this, right? So it can be done, but that is exactly what we should be asking for, right? So even for prisons, right? Prisons need reforms in a really really big way. If you look at Indian prisons are overcrowded. You literally go as an under trial. You stay there for longer than what your sentence potentially could have been. You get no legal aid. The entire prison infrastructure is shabby. Most of the prisons have three times the population. It is not a corrective facility, right? So you need to do the same thing, where you need to make sure that there is good infrastructure, you've got good people, you're constructing new and better prisons, and these prisons actual corrective facilities. You figure out how you tackle the situation, like under trials, where they are not in prison for more time than they should be, and they're not in prison and taken advantage of, right? And similarly, the jail warden, all of these people need to be accountable. And when you start seeing cases like the actor Darshan or Lawrence Bishnoi, the jail authorities, who was the highest authority in that jail, needs to needs to serve a sentence in prison, right? There is no other way to solve these kind of problems, right? How is Lawrence Bishnoi operating in jail unencumbered? How is he doing that? He's doing that in collusion with the authorities. There's no way that he can do that on his own, right? So each of these, each of these systems can be made accountable, and as citizens, as concerned citizens, we should be asking for very specific things, and not be making generalized statements like, I want a stringent punishment for this crime. That doesn't mean anything. What does stringent mean, right? How do you explain that? So be very specific in what your ask is from the system, right? I'm just scrolling through a list of things that I want to talk about, and I'm sorry for not being really well organized, right? Okay, so you have this other case, the Prajwal Revana case, where he's a powerful person. He's the grandson of a powerful politician. He's a politician. He has a lot of money. He's got a lot of connections. So in this case, when somebody goes in and files a case against him, right? First, the case should be escalated to the highest authority in the state. The person who is complaining should be given full security, and if there is any lapse, it is going to be the responsibility of the police, and heads should roll, right? So unless we are able to give that kind of protection to a normal person who is filing a case, I don't think you will see a lot of cases against people who are powerful, right? So we need to have checks and balances there, and make sure that there is accountability in the system. The other thing to do is, anybody who walks into the police station, you should have a CCTV, and you should make sure that they are logged in, and they're given a unique number, and maybe there's somebody who calls them at that number and says, oh, you know what, this was a unique number. Did you go there to file a case? Was the case filed? How was it, right? So if we do that, and we randomly select people and call them, and make sure that when they went to the police station, they got the kind of experience that they deserved as a citizen, then we can ensure that there is accountability there. This is the other way to ensure it, right? So even if you go to a police station in the rural area, as long as there's CCTV footage, you're given a unique number for being there, and you can even call a number and say, hey, I got this number, I went there, justice wasn't done, right? And things should move. The other thing to think about is, for rape cases, the justice system requires that the victim be anonymous, right? So if somebody's going to a police station in a small village and giving a complaint, does that person have a separate room where this complaint is taken? Is there a lady constable? Are they guaranteeing anonymity, or does the entire village get to know about it next morning, right? So when you do not have that infrastructure within a police station, where the person who is complaining is, under the law, is supposed to be given anonymity but doesn't, right? You'll need to physically overhaul the police infrastructure in a big way just to make sure that these current laws are adhered to, right? Okay, so we discussed the law and order system. We also discussed social factors. We discussed prejudices against girl child. We've seen that women are made to feel like second class citizen. There's a education is another important factor, right? So we have this age for women getting married at 18 and men at 21, but and the government is also talking about raising the age for women to be 24, right? It looks good on paper, but India has this other problem where a lot of girls are getting married below the age of 18. So just by raising the number to 24, nothing is going to change. What is the problem with getting married at 18 versus 21? Right? It at least takes 21, 22 for somebody to get a degree, right? So you need to graduate, you need a degree, you will need to be 21, 22 years of age. Um, so if women are getting married at a really young age, then they really don't have any career to fall back on. So if something goes wrong with the marriage, they are totally on their own, and this could result in being exploited, marital rape, other issues that come with it. So educating the women child, the girl child, is key. And I know the state has a lot of programs around it, but this is something that society collectively needs to understand that, hey, this is important. It's been important in middle class India since, I would say, the 70s and the 80s. So if you go to big cities, most households don't really distinguish between the girl child and boy child, and everybody gets access to an equal education. And this needs to be the norm, and this needs to happen across all levels of society. So there's this other issue which is dowry, right? This is also the issue where this is as good as trafficking, and I think the people giving it are as responsible as the people taking it, and maybe the people giving it are a lot more responsible. And we don't tend to, point our finger to those people. So there's another area where people really need to think hard about and understand that you're again putting your child as a disadvantage, and this again leads to exploitation across the board, if not for your child, somebody else's child, because you just set an example in society that is not really good. So what is the other thing that we need to be talking about, right? uh, One thing that we haven't discussed is the fear of the law. If you're not a criminal, why should you fear the law, right? If you're an ordinary citizen, you should be able to very happily go to a police station and file a complaint. But that's not the case, right? Everybody is really reluctant, and people are worried, even though the other victim, they're worried to actually go into the police station and file a complaint. So for things like this, I think we should start young. When kids go to school, they should be, just like we go on a picnic to a park or a reservoir or a national forest or whatever, right? We should make sure that we take kids to a police station and show them, oh, this is how you file a FIR. This is how you file a complaint in the police station, so that the fear of going to a police station and filing a complaint is just taken away, right? And that needs to happen. If there's one thing that we need to do, is we need to make sure that every young citizen in India has gone to a police station and knows how to file an FIR. Very important. Very small thing, but very important. So education is key, and we can start with schools all over the country where kids are taught that they can actually go and file an FIR, and this is how it needs to be done. And it's very straightforward document. It's not difficult. Now, one of the things that I see very often in India is that people are quick to go and display solidarity with the victim and say, "Oh yeah, you know what? We totally feel for you, and I'm going to burn this candle for you." Right? Okay, don't do that. So if you're watching this program, have you been molested? Right? Try answering that question. The answer is yes. Have you filed a police complaint? Maybe not. Right? So take a city like Bombay. You step into a bus. It's crowded, rush hour, right? Somebody could slip a hand, somebody could touch you intentionally, and that is molestation. In cases like this, typically, women do not go and file a complaint. In a lot of cases, they don't know who that person is, right? They haven't even seen the person. In some cases, they have actually seen the person, but you don't go to a police station and they're not going to create a sketch and just do this for this one incident of molestation, right? So what happens is, it's usually a he she said as well. Like there's no DNA evidence, so okay, I think somebody did this to me. Now how do I believe that that person actually did it, right? So you have that aspect as well. So what should you do in this case? If you've ever been molested, you should go to a police station, file a complaint, say I was molested in this bus or this train or in this area at so and so time, right? And why should you do that even though the police may not be able to catch the culprit, right? You should do that because once you start doing that and once everybody else starts doing that, the police and the civic authorities, they have a very strong database of these kind of incidents, right? So let's just say that Bandra police station has 20,000 cases of molestation in a year. Now the police can't just sit on it and say, oh, wait, we did nothing, right? There are 20,000 unsolved cases of molestation. They have to do something. So once you have the numbers in, then civic authorities will have to act on it. And they could do different things, like they could say, oh, we've seen so many incidents on this particular train or this particular bus, so we should increase the frequency so that we don't have such crowded trains and buses, because in those circumstances things happen. So why don't you just remove, just make sure that that circumstance doesn't exist, right? So that's one way of doing it. The other way is to increase policing, at certain hours, because you know that these kind of incidents happen, right? So people can immediately talk to the police right then and there and file a complaint. So that's the other way to actually do something like that. So it's very important. So if you're watching this podcast, right, give that a thought. Instead of saying, "Hey, I express solidarity with the victim," just go and file a complaint if something bad has happened to you. Because if you don't, then you essentially have somebody who is being emboldened and going to take the next step in that journey of exploiting somebody else, right? Um, so what else? I think from the list of things that I have, that is the long and short of it. The other thing that I'm going to talk about is a lot of things that I've said have been generic, right? It's been about the law and order system, and some of these are not very specific to rape, right? So one thing to understand here is that if a system is broken, it's broken, right? Rape is a crime, just like any other crimes, right? Like pickpocketing or murder. A system doesn't work, is not going to work, really efficiently for one particular crime and not work for the other crimes, right? If you go to a police station to register a complaint, it's not that you're going to encounter the exact same person who's going to, write down your complaint, whether it is for pickpocketing, murder, rape, molestation. Right? So there's no real great specialization there. And if you go to small towns and villages, right, there's no way, right? So so when you so the thing to understand here is the system is broken for all crimes. A lot of times you see that, oh, the people say, oh, this is really important. Sure, it's important, but if the system is broken for all crimes, it's going to be broken for this, so you're not going to be able to get anywhere by just saying, hey, this is right. The other thing that people do is they say, oh, this has happened to doctors and that is really sad, or this has happened to actors and this is really wrong. Look, it whoever it happens to is it is wrong. But the moment you go and pick up a particular segment of society and say, oh, if it happens to this segment of society, it is worse. That's not really true, and that's not really going to get you anywhere, right? So you just need to understand that this is a universal problem. It happens to 50% of the population, can happen to 50% of the population, and you want to prevent it. So just fix the system. And how do you know that the system is broken? If you're living in a city like Delhi, you just have to breathe the air, and you know that the system is broken because a lot of laws have been broken to make sure that the air is that polluted, right? For example, in these cities, you have indiscriminate construction. You can construct anywhere. Typically, there is town planning. When you construct a building, you have to construct. You construct a building with, let's say, 10,000 flats. You have to have a school. You have to have a dispensary. You have to have a fire station. You have to have a park. You have to make sure that the road can take this much traffic. None of that happens. And none of that happens in Delhi. It doesn't happen in Bombay. It doesn't happen in Bangalore for sure. So literally all of these cities, you can see that all the laws have been broken, right? All laws have been broken. And you only show up when, this particular thing happens. And you're like, oh my God, in this case, no, 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 right? Look around your city, all laws have been broken, you are at risk. So understand that you're not very different. You're not going to you're not special. You're not special at all, right? The law is not going to work just for you, just because you're famous, just because you're rich. You are equally at risk, and it's very important to understand that. So next time, when issues like this happen, be very specific in what your ask is, and be very consistent, and try to push for a better law and order system. Try to be very specific about what you want improved in the judicial system, what you want improved in the police, what you want to improve in the prison system. Now, coming back to the book, right? I'm really poor at marketing it. Bottom line is that, hey, this is a book that is about an important social issue. It's a storybook, so it is entertaining. You can see it on Amazon. It's got a whole bunch of reviews, so do take a look at the reviews before you take the plunge. It does do, a lot of what I've spoken here is mentioned in the book. The premise of the book is that it is about a TV journalist who is disenchanted with the system and decides to hold a discussion, a TV debate on rape, where she invites four gang rapists and four convicted gang rapists and their victim, right? So this is the premise. It's a very dramatized, high octane kind of a book, so you're not going to get bored reading it. So do take a look at it. It's called the 9 p.m. debate. It's on Amazon, and thank you so much for spending time with me. But yeah, before I go, can you please add your comments? I'm fine if you don't, like or subscribe. That's totally cool. But I'm really interested in understanding, what your experiences have been, what you think of, this particular conversation, and it'll be good to get feedback as well. So thank you. Bye.